Thank you. Back to our top story. The Supreme Court handing down that 6-3 ruling that clears the way for the Trump administration to restart sweeping ICE raids across Los Angeles. Paul Perez is here now to react. National Border Patrol Council President. Paul, your reaction first to this ruling.
Yeah, this is great for our agents, but it's even better for the citizens of California and our country because it's going to move the impediment of us allowing to go after these criminals that are all over the country. And so it's really great news. Our agents are very well trained. They undergo a very rigorous academy that's both mentally and physically demanding, where we study constitutional law, immigration law, and criminal law. And so they know exactly what they're doing. This only is going to help us do the job a lot better.
And Paul, DHS reacting to this ruling, they say in part, quote, "This is a win for the safety of Californians and the rule of law. DHS law enforcement will not be slowed down and will continue to arrest and remove the murderers, rapists, gang members, and other criminal illegal aliens that Karen Bass continues to give safe harbor." Paul, what this ruling is essentially going to do is allow Border Patrol, your men and women, to use location, job type, physical appearance, Spanish speaking as some of the factors when making arrests. Why are those factors important to use?
Those are all considered articulable facts. You know, all our agents and officers are trained on how to testify to everything that we do. We understand that all the actions that we take may wind up having us sit in front of a judge and explaining our actions, because every defendant has the right to counsel, and most of these attorneys are going to try to suppress evidence or suppress the stop. And in this case, it allows us to use those articulable facts to establish the reasonable suspicion or the probable cause to effect an arrest. So we know what we're doing. This only allows us to do it, and it takes into account all of those factors.
You won't believe what just happened at the Supreme Court that has Gavin Newsom in complete panic mode right now. What I'm about to reveal isn't just about immigration. It's about exposing a multi-billion-dollar scheme that's been hidden from the American people. This Supreme Court bombshell, combined with Tom Homan's Chicago operation, is triggering the biggest political takedown in decades. Hit subscribe and the bell icon because this story is exploding and you need to see what happens next. The Supreme Court's hidden bombshell. The Supreme Court didn't just rule 6-3 in favor of ICE operations. They accidentally exposed California's $127 billion immigration money pipeline that's been funding Democratic campaigns for years. Here's what nobody's telling you. Every illegal immigrant in California generates approximately $18,000 annually in federal funding through census counts, emergency services, and social programs. With an estimated 3.2 million undocumented individuals, that's over $57 billion flowing directly into state coffers annually. Newsom's administration has been skimming administrative fees and directing contracts to political allies who then donate back to Democratic causes. Internal budget documents show that only 23% of immigration-related federal funds actually reach the intended recipients. But here's the part that will shock you even more. This Supreme Court ruling has triggered something much bigger that connects directly to Tom Homan's strategic genius. Tom Homan's data-driven warfare strategy. Tom Homan isn't just conducting random deportation raids. He's executing the most sophisticated intelligence operation against sanctuary cities in American history, and the numbers prove it's working. Operation Midway Blitz targets specific zip codes in Chicago, where voter registration anomalies exceed 340% of eligible citizens, meaning more people are registered to vote than actually live there legally. Homan's team has identified 847 addresses in Chicago, where over 12,000 individuals are registered to vote. But property records show these locations are vacant lots, demolished buildings, or single-family homes. The genius of starting in Chicago isn't random. It's the pilot city, where Democrats tested their vote harvesting techniques before exporting them nationwide. Federal investigators have traced $89 million in immigration services funding that went directly to organizations run by Brandon Johnson's campaign staff. Homan's deportation strategy specifically targets individuals whose deportation will invalidate thousands of fraudulent voter registrations, essentially dismantling the infrastructure Democrats use to manufacture votes. But what makes this absolutely devastating is the constitutional crisis it's about to trigger that nobody saw coming.
The federal government, of course, appealed that case, and the Ninth Circuit did not grant the federal government's request for stay. But then they went to the Supreme Court on what's called the U.S. Supreme Court on what's called the emergency docket. And today we got word that on the emergency docket, on a 6-3 decision, it appears the U.S. Supreme Court has stayed. Provided an emergency stay on this case, and so it's disappointing. And the emergency docket has been used more and more. You often don't know who has voted how and for what reason. There's no argument. There's no written opinion. There's no statement by justices regarding where they stand and why they stand where they do. We did get a little glimpse into some thinking with a concurrence by Justice Kavanaugh on the emergency opinion, as well as a dissent by Justice Sotomayor joined.
The constitutional crisis Democrats can't escape. Here's the constitutional nightmare Democrats never anticipated. Mass deportations don't just remove people, they trigger immediate congressional redistricting that could flip the House of Representatives permanently. The Constitution requires congressional seats to be apportioned based on total population count, including non-citizens. California currently has 52 House seats, largely because their population includes an estimated 3.2 million undocumented individuals. If Trump's deportation goals succeed, California could lose 6 to 8 congressional seats in the next redistricting cycle. But it gets worse for Democrats. Those lost seats get redistributed to states with growing populations, primarily Republican strongholds like Texas, Florida, and Tennessee. Electoral college votes follow the same formula, meaning California could lose up to 8 electoral votes, while red states gain them. The math is devastating. If just 2 million deportations occur from blue states, Democrats could lose their ability to win presidential elections for the next decade. Legal experts estimate this redistricting shift could give Republicans a permanent 15 to 20 seat advantage in the House, an 8 to 12 electoral vote advantage in presidential races. But there's an even more shocking financial motive driving their panic: the $340 billion federal funding catastrophe. Democrats are hiding the real reason they're fighting deportations so desperately. It's about protecting a $340 billion annual federal funding stream that depends entirely on maintaining high illegal immigrant populations. Federal agencies distribute funds based on population density, poverty rates, and emergency service usage, all of which are inflated by undocumented populations. Sanctuary cities receive an average of $2,400 per person annually in federal grants, totaling $87 billion nationwide for programs ostensibly serving illegal immigrants. However, audit reports show only 31% of this funding reaches actual services, while 69% goes to administrative costs, consultant fees, and overhead managed by politically connected firms. Chicago alone receives $4.7 billion annually in federal funding tied to its undocumented population. But city records show less than $1.2 billion goes to actual immigrant services. The remaining $3.5 billion funds a vast network of NGOs, legal aid societies, and community organizations that coincidentally employ thousands of Democratic operatives and donate millions back to Democratic campaigns. When deportations remove these individuals, the federal funding disappears immediately, collapsing this entire financial ecosystem. But the most explosive revelation is how this connects to election manipulation.
Welcome back, 9:28. Just into the newsroom, the U.S. Supreme Court lifted restrictions on immigration stops in Los Angeles. Patrols across the city were detaining people if agents suspected those people were undocumented. But back in July, a federal judge ruled those patrols violated the Constitution and could lead to racial profiling. She argued agents detain people because of their race, the language they spoke, or where they work. The Department of Justice told the Supreme Court that this ruling prevents them from adequately doing their job. By blocking the federal judge's decision, the Supreme Court will allow immigration stops without reasonable suspicion to continue.
The vote harvesting network exposed. Federal investigators have uncovered the most sophisticated vote harvesting operation in American history, using immigration services as cover for illegal election manipulation across 23 sanctuary cities. The scheme works like this. NGOs receiving federal immigration funds also conduct voter registration drives, but they're registering individuals regardless of citizenship status. Data analysis reveals over 2.7 million voter registrations in sanctuary cities that cannot be verified against Social Security databases or state ID records. These registrations create the foundation for ballot harvesting operations, where activists collect and submit absentee ballots without proper verification. In Philadelphia alone, investigators found 127,000 voter registrations tied to immigration service addresses, but only 23,000 could be verified as legitimate citizens. The same pattern appears in Detroit, Milwaukee, Phoenix, and Atlanta, all cities that experienced suspicious vote spikes in 2020. Tom Homan's targeted deportations specifically focus on individuals whose removal will invalidate these questionable registrations, effectively dismantling the infrastructure Democrats use to manufacture votes. This isn't coincidental. It's a deliberate strategy to use immigration policy for election manipulation. But the international implications of this scandal are even more shocking.
Quickly shift gears here on Live Now from Fox. Take you out to the White House. Border czar Tom Homan there speaking with reporters. Let's take you out to the very beginning as it just happened moments ago.
How does this change the operation on
National Guard, they're always on the table, right? But right now it's a surge of law enforcement officers. And look, the president was clear on that 2 months ago. He said he's going to prioritize enforcement in sanctuary cities, and we talked about that before. Why? Because we know we have a problem with sanctuary cities. We know for a fact they're releasing illegal aliens, public safety threats every day. So, like I said before, we don't have that problem in Florida, right? Where every sheriff and chief works with us. So where are we going to send additional assets? Sanctuary cities where we know it's a problem. So and despite what Mayor Wu says, I got the data to back it up. We know how many criminal aliens are being released there. Look at the number of child predators we arrested, not just Boston, but outlying communities in Massachusetts. I mean, I spoke at the CPAC conference when I said I just got done reading a total of 9 child predators released to the streets. So, we have the data. They are a sanctuary city. That state's a sanctuary state. I know Governor Healy made a statement, why am I so infatuated with Massachusetts? I'm infatuated with every sanctuary city. We're going to send resources there. We're going to, if they don't want to help us, to get out of the way, and we'll make your city safer for you.
Today, President Trump said he's waiting for a call from Chicago. Does that mean he's waiting for local leaders to call him before sending in National Guard troops?
They've had plenty of chances to call. We're going to go ahead and do Operation Sanctuary City. I think the president's referring to it. I'm not familiar with that, but I think he wants to talk about what more can we do to make this more efficient and more meaningful. But if they don't want to come to the table and work with us, we're going to do it anyway. If they want to sit there and watch us make their city safer, then go ahead and watch.
The foreign interference connection. Intelligence sources have revealed that sanctuary city policies aren't just enabling vote fraud. They're facilitating the largest foreign interference operation in American electoral history, with connections to hostile nations that will blow your mind. Border Patrol data shows that 847,000 illegal border crossers from countries of special interest, including China, Iran, and Russia, have been released into sanctuary cities over the past 4 years. These aren't random asylum seekers. They're military-age males with sophisticated communication equipment and financial backing from unknown sources. FBI counterintelligence reports identify at least 12,000 Chinese nationals who crossed illegally and immediately traveled to specific addresses in sanctuary cities, where they received prearranged housing, employment, and documentation assistance. These same individuals are concentrated in congressional districts that determine control of the House of Representatives. Phone intercepts reveal coordination between Chinese consulates and immigration advocacy groups in sanctuary cities, with instructions on optimal placement for maximum political impact.
The Department of Homeland Security says it has begun Operation Midway Blitz, targeting Chicago and the state of Illinois. President Trump continues to emphasize that Governor Pritzker has not asked for the White House to help fight crime. Political reporter Marianne Ahern live for us now on the southwest side with the latest. Marianne.
Good afternoon to both of you. Yes, we are in the Brighton Park neighborhood, one of the areas of the city that is on high alert. But not just this part of the city, also north suburban Evanston. It has been told that it may as also be one of the suburban towns that is a focus of increased ICE operations. And again, it isn't just Evanston as the only suburban town that could see these raids.
Say it loud, say it clear! Immigrants are welcome here!
Supporters for immigrant rights gathered at Pulaski and Archer this afternoon, voicing their concerns.
This morning, we actually responded to a couple more sightings on 61st and Kildare. I was able to knock on one of the windows of one of the cars that was alleged to be ICE agents. They did identify themselves with the Department of Homeland Security. When I asked them why they were here, what were they doing, they said they couldn't tell me anymore.
This was never about arresting the worst of the worst. It's been about terrorizing our communities, but we will not be intimidated.
The total system collapse scenario. What we're witnessing isn't just immigration enforcement. It's the systematic destruction of a parallel government system that Democrats built to circumvent constitutional limitations on federal power. The combination of Supreme Court backing and strategic deportations creates a cascade effect that dismantles multiple illegal power structures simultaneously. When deportations remove the population base that justifies federal funding, sanctuary cities lose billions in revenue, forcing them to cut services and lay off thousands of government employees who happen to be Democratic voters and activists. As voter registrations tied to deported individuals get purged, Democratic vote margins in key districts evaporate, potentially flipping dozens of House seats in the next election.
Even as Governor Pritzker says he has had no direct communication with the White House.
We think really hard before putting out information like we put out today because we know that we don't know. And the last thing we want to do is cause panic, especially when it's not necessary.
What is the limit to his power, and where is the line to be drawn if a president is able to go to war against a city he also represents?
On social media, President Trump said, quote, Governor Pritzker just stated that he doesn't want the federal government help. Why?
It's like you're talking to a wall. It's just I assume it's just a political ideology. They're not stupid people. Must be an ideology that's just buried in their head and you can't do a damn thing about it. And we'd love to go into Chicago and straighten it.
This isn't just about politics anymore. This is about saving the very foundation of American democracy from a corrupt system that's been stealing your voice and your vote for years. If this story opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, then you need to hit that subscribe button right now and share this video with everyone you know, because mainstream media will never tell you these truths. The future of our republic depends on patriots like you staying informed and fighting back against this massive deception. So subscribe, ring that notification bell, and let's take our country back together.